In this tough economy, people need money to pay bills. So a recent survey finds 1 out of 7 Americans took out loans from their retirement accounts last year, twice as many as the year before. 32-year-old Sherry Cheney Jones of Columbus, Ohio, is one of them.
In October 15th, 2010, I decided to start my own business. I went to a seminar in Columbus, and there was a woman there who introduced the idea of using a 401k and that you could borrow from that. Okay, good job. I weighed my options. I discussed it with my husband. I only borrowed $10,000. I can take out more, up to half of what's in there if I need it. It was extremely easy. It was a matter of filling out a paperwork with my financial planner. The money was deposited from the loan into my bank account in a matter of a week. It's not right for everyone, but it is your money. You can borrow from it tax-free. You do pay yourself back at interest, but a very low interest, much lower than maybe a traditional bank. When talking to the financial planner, she was seeing more and more people use this because the banks were not giving loans out traditionally to small businesses anymore. What I feel optimistic about is that I will be able to grow this business to not only pay myself back at the current interest, but continue to contribute more towards the 401k than I would have if I would have stayed where I was.
Happy birthday to you.
Plus I have youth on my side, so retirement seemed very far away.
Now Sherry believes that she's going to be okay, but this growing trend is making a lot of experts very nervous out there. And joining us now is financial journalist Joanne Lipman, who's a columnist for Newsweek magazine. Joanne, good to see you here this morning.
Good to see you.
How prevalent is this? I always thought it was the cardinal rule, never dip into the 401k.
Yeah, you're right.
And with all the people that do this, how worrisome are these debts that will be outstanding and potentially not paid back?
Right. Well, so what you're talking about, you're exactly right. Okay, right now we have 30% of people who have 401ks have loans against their 401ks, which is a historic high. And the problem is it's growing like crazy. By 2014, we're expecting to see 30 million people take loans against their 401ks. It's a big, big problem, and it's one that's really been under the radar. And the big problem, Chris, is that if you lose your job, you have to pay that loan back within 60 days. So suddenly, you have no income, you owe all this money back, and the fact is that most people are unable to pay it back. There was a survey recently that found that 70% of people who lose their jobs are unable to pay back the loan and go into default. And the number is even higher. The woman who we just heard from is interesting. She said, I have youth on my side, but the fact is the number's even higher for young people. It's closer to 80%.
And then if you go into default, then the tax penalties come in and then the additional penalties come in.
That's exactly right. If you go into default, you owe the money, you've just, rated as a piggy bank your 401k, you don't have retirement funds, and you owe taxes and penalties.
Let's ask some of the questions that people need to ask themselves before doing something like this are.
Well, okay, there are ways in which it makes sense. There are certain times when it makes sense. So, if you're secure in your job, if there's a one-time expense, let's say you need money for a down payment on a home, that's fine. That makes sense, or for education, for medical expenses. That can make a lot of sense because you are paying yourself back. And if you can stay on track, you're fine with that. The problem is when you use it as a piggy bank, when people are using this to pay for a vacation, to pay for a home that's perhaps larger than they can afford, that's where we really get into trouble.
If people are watching right now and they're saying to themselves, this is something that I was going to pursue, but now it doesn't sound like such a great idea, what are some alternatives for them?
Well, there are alternatives. One alternative, and it depends on what's right for you, but one alternative could be a line of credit, home equity line of credit. And in that case, you're paying probably a higher interest rate, but on the plus side, it's deductible, and it's not tied to your job, so you don't have to worry about having to pay it back suddenly.
Okay, something to think about. Joanne, thank you. Good to see you here this morning.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you.